Welcome to our September offering of Lunch and Learn. It is on a day other than the first Thursday of the month. I'm going to begin us in prayer, and then I'll do the introduction of our guest speaker today. There's actually two prayers that are at the end of the encyclical Laudato Si. And the second one is one that we as Christians ask for inspiration to take up the commitment to creation set before us by the gospel of Jesus. So it's a Christian prayer in union with creation. And I would add that the nature of Iowa Faith and Climate, which we will hear, is a place where people of faith can come together and discuss the important responsibility of caring for creation. And so, though the prayer is Christian in nature, I would also add that it's a call to God in a broader sense as well. That would be the hope. Father, we praise you for all your creatures. They came forth from your all-powerful hand. They are yours, filled with your presence and your tender love. Praise be to you. Son of God, Jesus, through you all things were made. You were formed in the womb of Mary, our mother. You became part of this earth, and you gazed upon this world with human eyes. Today you are alive in every creature in your risen glory. Praise be to you. Holy Spirit, by your light, you guide this world toward the Father's love and accompany creation as it groans in travail. You also dwell in our hearts, and you inspire us to do what is good. Praise be to you. Triune Lord, wondrous community of an infinite love, teach us to contemplate you in the beauty of the universe, for all things speak of you. Awaken our praise and thankfulness for every being that you have made. Give us the grace to feel profoundly joined to everything that is. God of love, show us our place in this world as channels of your love for all the creatures of this earth, for not one of them is forgotten in your sight. Enlighten those who possess power and money, that they may avoid the sin of indifference, that they may love the common good, advance the weak, and care for this world in which we live. The poor and the earth are crying out. O Lord, seize us with your power and light. Help us to protect all life, to prepare for a better future, for the kingdom, for the coming of your kingdom of justice, peace, love, and beauty. Praise be to you. Amen.
Amen.
Irene Damaris is the executive director of Iowa Faith and Climate Network, where she has driven the organization through transformative and strategic change to grow its mission. Under her leadership, the organization has successfully navigated significant transitions, expanded its programming, and realigned its efforts to meet the evolving needs of faith communities here in Iowa. Irene has enhanced the network's policy advocacy efforts, substantially increased fundraising, and spearheaded the modernization of operational systems and the strengthening of partnerships with key organizations. Irene has played a critical role in securing faith-based climate action in Iowa by expanding the board, fostering stronger community engagement, and leading the creation of a new strategic plan. This effort resulted in a name change and a bold new mission, vision, values, and a set of strategic focus areas that will guide the organization's impact for years to come. As the director of social action for the Diocese of Davenport, I have benefited professionally by the working relationship I have with Irene. As is sometimes the case, it is by virtue of her networks that I've got to know people in our diocese better, those that possess expertise as it relates to caring for creation, and it would have taken me years more longer had it not been for the networking that Irene has provided us. I will also add that the Laudato Si action plan that the diocese has implemented has as part of its sub-elements the responsibility to continue to work with people of other faiths in order to care for creation. It is an enormous responsibility, but to be able to share with people from other faith traditions our common ground in caring for our home, we really need to continue to maintain these working relationships. And so we are grateful for Irene's work and also her willingness to share some time with us today. Deaconess Irene, take it away.
Thank you. I'm going to dump some links that I'll reference, so I'm not going to multitask too much today. We're going to share a little slideshow. So Iowa Faith and Climate Network, we've gone through a lot of changes. We'll talk about what led into these changes, what we're up to, and hopefully more ways that we can all continue to work together. I feel like Kent, when I first started working in 2020, I feel like we met pretty soon or started communicating from the get-go. So the Diocese of Davenport is a key partner and one that we are just excited. When I asked Kent to do something, he's like, sure, why not? And I think it goes both ways for both of us. So you all are just so valued and all beloved children of God that we love working with. So we had the intro, but I always forget to give myself an intro. So anyways, I am the executive director. I'm a Methodist deaconess. So that's the Methodist Church's lay order. So we are kind of like a Catholic sister, but we can get married. And our order now is Deaconess Home Missioner, which has embraced men and our non-binary siblings. I have a master's divinity from Seattle U, which is actually a Jesuit university. So I did get to learn a bit about Catholicism in seminary. And a few of my Catholic friends learned a little bit about Methodism. So that was just a great learning experience for me. I do come from a scientific background that I never used, but I did study math in college. And I've really just been doing faith-based nonprofit work my entire career. One thing about the state of Iowa, this is based off 2023 statistics, is 2.4 million adult Iowans identify as people of faith. So that's 78% of our adult population. I wish I had that many people in my database, but we don't. But I like to share that because this kind of shows all of us where our mission field is and can be in the state of Iowa in terms of faith-based climate action that we can do together. Just really briefly, I like to touch on a definition of what the climate crisis is. So it refers to the serious problems that are being caused or are likely to be caused by changes in the planet's climate, including weather extremes, hazards, ocean acidification, sea level rise, loss of biodiversity, food and water insecurity, health risks, economic disruption, displacement, and even violent conflict. Climate change is no longer considered to accurately reflect the seriousness of the overall situation. But I also want to say that in a rural space, sometimes you can't talk about the climate crisis or climate change. You'll be heard better if you say creation care and use terms that really invite people in, because again, this is a crisis, so we need everybody on deck. So causes can be generating power from fossil fuels like coal, gas, oil. Manufacturing goods also produces emissions. Cutting down forests. I would say thinking about Iowa, like the loss of our prairies, right? Using transportation, which is a quarter of global emissions. Producing food. Powering buildings due to shifts in climate, growing demand for heating and cooling as we're hitting these extremes. Our systems that heat and cool our house have to keep running. I mean, it's going to be 80 this weekend in end of September. That summer's longer, so that means we're running our systems longer. Overconsumption, right? Consuming too much. And I like to add this one is I think some of this is like forgetting that to love your neighbor as yourself. In Iowa, this is from Yale Climate Communications. We have there's different climate maps that you can look and you can see this actually you can break down county by county. But in the state of Iowa, 55% of Iowans believe that global warming is caused by mostly human activities. 61% believe that it's affecting our weather. 69% believe it will harm plants and animals, while 71% of global warming will harm future generations. And you can kind of see that going. I mean, a lot of people, when you think of the work that will take, right, think of their grandkids, great nieces and nephews, if they're a teacher, all the students they've worked with. So a lot of our base is really, fighting for the kingdom of God in the here and now, if we want to use a little bit more Christian terms. Or as, Martin Luther King said, the beloved community. I am not a Laudato Si expert. Kent is one of my defaults for that. But y'all, your tradition has given us all a beautiful theological reflection and challenge through the Laudato Si that focuses on the environmental crisis, the human roots of it, integral ecology in terms of like the interconnectedness of everything, and just the spiritual call of it. So I'm sure some of you know a lot more than I do. I need to take some time to reread it. But I think it's a great framing. I always like to tell our supporters to know what your faith background says. And as Catholics, as Roman Catholics, you have one of the best, most modern resources in theological grounding, which is pretty exciting. So a few years ago, we started running this program called Faith Farms and Climate. I just want to go to why we changed, because some of you might be curious. And so we ran this program and we ran it across the state. We ran it in Coralville at one point. We did it in Washington in terms of places in the diocese. And it really, that's us on a field. That's actually in Clarinda, so not in your diocese. But we really spent time getting to know farmers, ranchers, and landowners, rural clergy, and having conversations about how their faith calls them to climate action. And one of the things that we learned was that, sorry, I'm going to go back a slide. So first, we learned a few things. So focus area 1, we learned that people wanted a deeper language about, a deeper faith language about caring for the earth. That there was a necessity for different theological, ethical, spiritual, and practical approaches, and the importance of hearing neglected voices. The other area that we broke down to, we titled Concerns and Solutions. Community as both a need and a solution. Apologies if you can hear some coughing. I have a 16-year-old elderly Chihuahua, and he just kind of coughs a little bit. His name is Leo. He's blind. He's adorable. So community is a need, and it's also our situation, our solution. Driving change and understanding through storytelling is very important. Congregations are natural resilience centers. We know that in emergencies, and especially as we have extreme weather emergencies, churches are usually the hub for the communities getting together and finding, sorting out like the gifts that are coming in to take care of people. We also learned the importance of connecting dots. It's a good thing to remind sometimes that things that we think are obvious, might not be obvious to others. And so really connecting the dots of what's happening on the ground in terms of climate change, and also providing solutions. We learned a lot about unique challenges of being a new or small farmer or using an alternative method, which is so important to know in an agriculture state. And there's just an increase in growing water and environmental concerns. I think we're all thinking about nitrates in our water. extreme heat, extreme cold, longer allergy seasons, which also in turn give us longer mosquito seasons. I'm not sure how y'all are doing in your corner of the state, but mosquitoes are real bad in central Iowa this year. The other area was barriers and ongoing realities that we talked about. There's a lot of people that feel disempowered. Money is a barrier, especially when we think about agriculture, right? Like eco-based services to convert your farm and whatnot costs money. And if you farm for 44 years, you have 44 chances. And so like those small changes are hard to make sometimes because people want to keep their family farm. There's time pressures, a sense of being overwhelmed, sometimes personal struggles, because this is a big problem, right? And sometimes it's hard to like cut it down into like tangible pieces where you can take action that builds up. Better information for busy church leaders. And hopelessness about political issues and solutions. If you subscribe to our newsletter, I think you see a lot about hope in community. And that's definitely us thinking about how do we nurture hope? I always think about how, in terms of our work at Iowa Faith and Climate Network, it feels easier in the environmental community because when we see a report that's like very, not super great news, and obviously I feel sad about stuff and I'm not sure where to turn all the time, but my faith really gives me that sustenance. It fills my cup because the Bible pulls us out of the scarcity model and puts us into community, hope, abundance, things that are really important if we're going to think about climate. So learning all of that really jumped us into becoming Iowa Faith and Climate Network. So we wanted an easy name that you saw our name and you're like, okay, I'm pretty sure that's a faith group that works on climate in the state of Iowa and they want to work with people. Interfaith Power and Light was a bit confusing. People thought we were a power company. We used to get phone calls about my power went out or can you help me set up auto pay? Glad to report we no longer get those calls. We created a new vision. So our vision is a world where people of diverse faith and spirituality work together towards a healthy, just, and sustainable future for all. We do this with our new mission, which is to nurture environmental leadership by equipping individuals and communities with resources to take climate action. Congregations, we pivoted back. Congregations are our theory of change. And so how can we help you build momentum and take larger action? We finally named values. We had never named values before. And so it's rooted in faith, inclusivity and respect, equity, and collaboration. And obviously this is one of the ways we do collaboration, and happily so. I'll just briefly touch on our strategic focus areas, but engaging clergy and congregations, mobilizing faith for advocacy. And so that's something we'll have an example from just last month that we worked on with y'all. Leading interfaith initiatives, bringing different groups of people together to take action. Financial sustainability, right? That's just a reality of a small nonprofit. Strengthening our brand. People, you can't reach people if they don't know who you are. So that was one of the beautiful things about the rebrand. And just cultivating a strong culture between staff and between our board and our supporters. So living into our new mission, these are kind of the breakdowns of what we are up to right now. So I'll talk a little bit more about this, but it really breaks down to our climate informed ministry cohorts, our Call to Climate Action Conference, resources including advocacy, and teaching and preaching. And I'm thinking in my head, I forgot to make a slide for Call to Climate Action. So I'm going to talk about it right now. So Call to Climate Action is our annual conference that used to be in the fall, but now is in March. And so last March, we had it in Grinnell, and we sold out for the first time because people are fired up. about hope-based community faith climate action. There is a lot of good stuff there. And so we are moving forward with our next conference, and that will be March 21st. It's a Saturday, and it's going to be in Cedar Rapids this year at St. Paul's United Methodist Church. And so the goal is to start moving the conference around the state so we can continue to engage with different people. We are working on some room blocks at Prairie Woods Retreat Center for those of people who need to travel up. But if you get our newsletter or you want to subscribe, I'll share that link too later. You will get email reminders. So we launched Climate Informed Ministry cohort groups, which is a one-year learning experience for Iowa clergy. And one of the themes that we shared was that people need some time to learn how to integrate like their theology, their background with ecology, environmentalism, climate action. I know when I was in seminary, my degree plus my United Methodist classes that I was required to take, I think I only had 2 or 3 electives. So there's not a lot of wiggle room for people to take extra coursework in seminary. And sometimes it wasn't ever offered because this was relatively new. So this really gives, it's actually more like a 10-month program, and the clergy people meet with my coworker, Tim, who's running the program. And they're going to focus on, the different themes that we shared earlier. So like theology, resilience. They're going to talk to someone who has worked for FEMA, meteorologists. We're going to have them talk with a mental health specialist. And throughout this time, they'll be integrating climate into their congregations through sermons, newsletter pieces, social media, very practical tools that they can use. And at the end, they can apply for an up to $1,000 grant to use for a climate project in their congregations. And so these are all things that we will be sharing as examples so people can get inspired. And hopefully, if they did it, I can do it too. In January, we launched 2 different new resources. So we're trying to release a resource a month. They could be big like these ones or small like a book report. But we launched the Growing Faith Bible Study, and that was actually written by a Presbyterian clergy woman in Southwest Iowa and Atlantic. And she was thinking about it, and she's like, I have a Mosaic congregation. And so it's written from somebody who really is in ministry, holding the tension between different views. So it's based off Jesus's parables. There's actually a leader's guide too. So it makes it really easy in running a Bible study. And that might actually really be good for Lent, actually. We also have What's Your Climate Story? We know that one of the most important ways to take climate action is to share your story. And we wanted to be able to equip people to put together how they do that. And so it's a 7-part training that you can do individually or with a small group. And you can craft your own story. And we also know that faith is our superpower. And so it integrates your faith into this climate story, which really gives you a sense of neutrality with who you're sharing with. This month, we've launched a speakers bureau. So this is actually my 7th engagement in 11 days. It's been a crazy, awesome season of creation for us. My coworker has done a lot of stuff too. But we are just getting more requests. And so we thought now's the time to launch a speakers bureau. So who you're seeing is the Bresnans. They're out of Indianola. They are Roman Catholic. They love Laudato Si, and they want to talk to you about it. They've started a green team in their church. They would love to talk to you about that and a whole other variety of things. We have a Mennonite woman, Carla, in Kelowna. My board chairs in Cedar Rapids. We also have another artist in Cedar Rapids. So we really do have a wide variety of people that if you're interested in having speakers for stuff, they would love to come.
Ken is a dear friend and St. Ambrose grad. And so the Bresnans, we've known the Bresnans for many years. That they're very, very talented. That's a great ad.
Yeah, they're amazing. And I've known them for a few years. We've had them lead a workshop, but I never knew what to plug them into. And then it just all fell into place. We are collecting submissions to create an eco project map. So it'll be an interactable, like clickable map on our website where you can click and see different congregations and houses of worship, retreat centers, what work they've done. It could be as simple as composting, a green team, a big project like geothermal or solar. And so it really lets people network with each other, right? So you could see like, okay, like who's done it in my town? Who can I talk to? And because people want to share what they've done, they want to share that wisdom. So we're still collecting submissions. We'll probably have a map up by November is the goal. And then we'll probably get more submissions because people are going to be like, why am I not on that? So like I said, we do a lot of teaching and preaching. And this is just a scope. I think I was trying to put numbers of what we've done this year, but I think we're up to 10 sermons, 2 workshops, 2 guest lectures at a college, 2 meet and greets, a moderated panel. And Tim and I have both taken a time filming for documentaries. So this is actually at Grace Atumwa United Methodist Church. And I virtually preached for Davenport, the Unitarian Church for Earth Sunday. So I've been mostly virtual in Davenport, but I would love to come and visit, hint, hint. So some of our recent advocacy is opposing the Permit Act. What's the Permit Act? Okay, so it lets pesticides enter the rivers without permit. So this is essentially gutting our Clean Water Act. It will shield polluters. It removes wetlands and waterways from federal protection, allows polluted waters from other states into Iowa, fewer wetlands, less flood protection, more pollution, wildlife. Really, it limits Iowa and tribal authority over pipelines, and it just allows projects that endanger species, right? Like it's not great, right? So this impact to Iowa, right? It will contribute further to our unsafe swimming waters. I have been asking for over 5 years in presentations, would you jump in a body of Iowa water without looking it was safe? I don't think a single person has said they would, right? We're already struggling with that. That will make our waters more unsafe. Higher drinking water costs. We're talking nitrate removal, getting things out of our water systems. I am blessed to live in Des Moines, where we have one of the best nitrate removal systems on the planet. But most Iowa towns don't have access to that. More toxic chemicals, right? PFAS, pesticides, dead zones in our rivers and lakes. And there's business risk, right? With cost, liability, and reputation. So we took action together. So our friends at the Environmental Law and Policy Center worked on a letter and an action alert. And so Iowa Faith and Climate Network proudly signed on to this letter to support that. And they organized letter delivery at all 4 congressional offices at the same time. And one of the deliveries was going to be in Davenport. I immediately was like, I'm emailing Kent, and Kent responded like very quickly, was like, sure, I will be there. And so my dear colleague Matt from ELPC joined Kent, and they delivered the letter to Miller Meek staff. So far, the Congress has not voted on this. As we know, they're doing some budget battling right now. So who knows when it will be gone, but people can still fill out that action alert. It's one of the things that's linked. We did a press release, and I'm always honored to be the faith voice at the table. think my blind chihuahua just ran into the corgi. Sorry about that. But yeah, Kent, do you want to say anything about that experience for you?
It was an opportunity to join with people from other faith traditions as part of the network to do some legislative advocacy. And it actually worked. Irene and others, we undertook what we called a pilgrimage for creation on the first Saturday in September. We started at the Mississippi River, and we would stop every block, and there was some reflection relating to creation. And we ended up 4 blocks up the hill at St. Anthony's Parish, where Bishop Walsh led us in a mass for creation after the end of the brief pilgrimage. But in the first block, I have those that were on the pilgrimage with me standing looking across the street at the bank building, which is where Senators Grassley, Ernst, and Representative Miller Meeks's offices are. And the whole point was to be able to say that our responsibility in caring for creation begins in prayer, and then there's an opportunity to learn about a particular issue, but then there's the act element of it. And this is where we go when one expression of advocacy is legislative advocacy.
Yeah.
And so it just seemed so fitting that we were able to reference this and this particular one on the Permit Act within weeks of this pilgrimage that we undertook. So it's very good.
That's so beautiful. And that's why faith-rooted climate action is so important. It's just so powerful. There's a sense of awe and possibility. And early on, someone once said, instead of like, just join me in prayer, they said, join me in the action of prayer. And I love that you said, like, prayer starts this way, but it ends in action. It's the things that we do. And that's really, the goal that we all want to do together in collaboration. So again, you can still do the action alert, and that will help you send an alert through the ELPC action, and that will, still go into the inboxes. And we'll keep you all posted if it hits the Senate, which it might. And we'll probably do some more letter delivery. We'll see what happens, but there's different ways that we'll work together. I've been working a bit with Tom Chapman, who is your state Iowa Catholic Conference lobbyist, on ways that we can potentially collaborate on the state level at the State House. So look forward to those things as well. And as I end and go in to take questions and whatnot, I do want to just bring back to this, and I try to remind everybody, every step, big or small, builds momentum. This is a steep climb. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And we all need to be together and do this work together, because we know what's possible. We know our faith calls us to the kingdom of God. A new heaven and new earth is possible if we want to start talking about Isaiah. But we can do this, and the only way we do it is together, not individually, and that's the power. So I think this is the end of my presentation part. So yeah, just opening up to questions, comments, concerns.
I would have those. I would have. Thank you, Irene, for the presentation, for the update on the network. I would have folks that are wanting to pose a question, put it in the chat box, and then I can kind of sort through and make sure we're able to get through them all. As you were talking initially, Irene, about caring for creation, the ways that we need to increase the efforts, the challenges sometimes that some people get hung up with climate change. Others are also concerned about the use of climate crisis. Following Laudato Si, there was also an apostolic exhortation, a different level of church teaching, and the title of it from Pope Francis was Laudate Deum. And Pope Francis was not mixing words. Laudate Deum meaning on the climate crisis, in referencing to it. So the sense of urgency, and a lot of it had to do with the global community, the government leaders, not having taken the necessary steps based on what the best available science was telling us to this sense of urgency. That was so the exhortation is a thinner read, but it is also one that speaks to faith leaders trying to give the followers the real-time update and the urgency of it. And so
Absolutely.
Laudate Diem is the continuation of it. And the church continues to speak very strongly about our responsibility. For those that have heard me reference this responsibility, I often refer to a comment that Father Bud Grant at St. Ambrose University has talked about the price that is to be paid. And 10 or 15 years ago, longer than that, he talked about something called redistributive suffering, in that those that have the means of making change have a responsibility to do so, because the world's poor, who are the ones that are most affected by all of this, don't have the means to do what others of us do. And that's the responsibility at a community level or individual level and families, and then back into the congregations, as well as responsibilities that dioceses have in trying to be mindful of sustainability. So I would also add, we've got folks from at least one of our parishes that have had what we refer to as a Laudato Si action plan, Irene. And so I see Jay from St. Thomas More in Coralville, and their parish has done, as others have done, by committing to a plan for the type of care for creation. Jay, if you want to say a couple words about what Laudato Si Action Plan is meant for St. Thomas More.
Sure, and I'll post a link to our Green Team page where you can read the plan and print it if you want. And we have a survey that we're asking all of our parishioners and anybody else that reads the plan to complete about how are you going to adopt one of our 4 goals. We took Laudato Si and sort of boiled it down to 4 different goals, and this is the black and white copy of our plan, and it's 4 pages booklet like this, or we have a poster version, and we have the online version. We're encouraging people to go online, read this, and there's a survey at the bottom, like a QR code or a survey link too. So, but our 4 goals are to learn from the earth, hear the poor, live simply, and help to heal our planet. So we're just rolling that out during the season of creation, and we've got some cutout. We've adopted the church's Jubilee Pilgrims of Hope anime mascots called Luce and Friends. We wanted to make it kid friendly, family friendly. So the reading level is about 4th grade maybe. And the Luce and Friends are 4 different characters that for light, for faith, for exploring and appreciating our world, and the musician emphasizing celebrating and emphasizing bodily movement and action. So that's a little bit about and I'll post a link to it. I will also post a link to an event that we're having at Prairie Woods. You mentioned Prairie Woods this coming Sunday. It's called Wandering and Wondering as Pilgrims of Hope. So we're going to just do some little talks about our own life pilgrimage and how does it relate to our faith life and to our care for creation. So we're going to do some, sharing in a circle and some walking outside, walking the labyrinth, walking meditation, earthing, barefoot walking, those kinds of things to be in touch with the earth. So that's at Prairie Woods this coming Sunday. I'll post a Facebook post about that, and I'll post the link to the parish Laudato Si plan. So it took us well over a year to develop this, and Kent, you sort of planted the idea, the seed of the idea for us to. There's one other parish in our diocese. Maybe there's more than that now, but we used St. John Vianney and Bettendorf as a model, and like I say, they had all 7 themes of Laudato Si, and we made it into 7 and adopted these. I mean, I'm sorry, made it into 4, and adopted these anime characters. So
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. And I hope if you need to submit your church on the Eco Project map, because
and
that's
we've
a
already-
whole thing. You having a whole plan. I mean, and I'm glad you shared with how long it took.
Mhm.
Because we really do live in this culture of the immediacy, like we should be able to take now change, right? But to make really long lasting, meaningful, communal, collective action, we really do need to bring so many people on board. And so a process that seems like long as a year, I assume that you're going to have so much more investment in your congregation
Right,
than
and
just
we
dropping
already
a plan
submitted-
in.
We already submitted to the map, so it should be somewhere in your system, I think. And our green team really goes back to
Good.
2015 and before. We had series of meetings about Laudato Si, and even before that, when they moved out from downtown Iowa City and built the new church in like 2008 and 9, they went LEED certified. They have geothermal heat and air, and the new edition that we just finished, it has heat pumps, state-of-the-art heat pumps. So we had some visionary people before I got there 4 years ago. So thanks.
Yeah, you mentioned St. John Vianney, and they had a Taizai prayer gathering here in the past week there in Bettendorf. And so John Vianney's given the thought and attention to having an action plan as well. And I posed to those that had that prayer service, reach out to the Episcopal Church down the street next year and start with those little steps. If we have friends that worship in other locations, in other faith traditions, to come together for something where we can share and gain inspiration by the efforts that they undertake. The Care for Creation, again, it's a matter of common ground, and it's an opportunity to gain strength. Those same types of legislative advocacy visits, when you have people from different faith traditions, it has an entirely different sound for the staffers or the elected officials themselves when you can talk about people from different faith backgrounds coming together on something that they see as very, very important. So that would be what I was going to add.
Absolutely. And on the state level, that like when we were opposing the governor's energy bill, like, we got the Episcopalians and the Methodists to weigh in. It was a little too late with the Catholic conference. If I had probably had a few more weeks, probably would have got, but like that whole, a group of people, like different types. And then like the action alerts were like from 44 different towns actually represented in our action alert for that one. And it's just the cacophony of voices, different types of voices. Your voice matters. Your faith voice matters. And guess who I'm talking to? I actually know Mike. We're connected from DC days and have a bunch of mutual friends. So that's actually, Mike has reached out to me to come to Decorah. We're just trying to figure out when.
The reference to the cohort group for clergy within the Catholic tradition, you have both priests and deacons that are part of the clergy. And so if your pastor himself may not have the means of that type of continued education and studies, if you know of a deacon who might have both the interest and the time to be part of a cohort group, that would be another way that we can stay connected and provide them with like the broader support for their ministry as well as the preaching that they do.
Absolutely. And I believe we're about 3/4 of and it's a small cohort, so it's between 10 and 15. I think we have 11 because we had some deferrals this year, but 75% count as rural congregations. And so this isn't just this like Des Moines centric or
Right.
urban center centric. This is really people serving in different communities, which I think is actually more important than working with a bunch of urban clergy. And I say that as the spouse of an urban clergy person. And I love, it's just, I think it's really important to have climate being spoken on where how it's heard, in every area of the state.
What I had talked before about the ability to hear from parishioners by way of the network that would have taken me years to hear. But there was also a moment when I heard Archbishop Zinkula reflect back on his own growing up on a farm, and for him to say that one of the holiest moments, the moment that he's most connected with the earth, is as you're just merely doing the farm chores at different times of the day. And I honestly believe that his own experience as a farm kid carried with him. So when we had the three young adults approach him and ask him to consider putting together a Laudato Si plan for the benefit of the diocese, you can see the straight line between the lived experience on the land and his receptivity to what undertaking, which is a pretty daunting challenge to move towards net zero for our buildings operations by the year 2050. And that type of reflection and articulation came about as a result of you asking faith leaders in the Washington area and Bishop at the time, Bishop Zinkula, to come down and be part of that conversation. If there aren't those moments, then you don't have the same willingness to commit to something as a plan looks like, and having the way of moving forward intentionally. So
Yeah, I don't know if y'all know how lucky you are to have Deacon Kent on staff and doing social justice work. There are people like Kent in all the other dioceses, but my experience has been that Kent is really, really dedicated to creation care. He's dedicated to justice, and has a wealth of knowledge. So y'all are so blessed to have my friend Kent.
I
hope y'all
would
know that.
as it relates to care for creation, as a secular Franciscan, and I know of at least 2 Franciscan associates by way of the Dubuque Franciscans, but I'm 25 plus years as a Franciscan, but it was only as a result of working on Laudato Si that I could read the Canticle of the Creatures and for the first time understand what St. Francis was saying when he was saying, "Praise be you through Sister Water." I mean, you're giving glory to God through the created world and all of the beings that have been created. And that is so powerfully fundamental to our faith expression that to not care for it is a sin of omission. And so that for me is why it so resonates with, we've got a myriad of tasks and responsibilities on a bishop's staff, but as far as care for creation goes, it's something that it's kind of at my core. So I thank you for the compliment. Let's see. Yeah, we've got good links, and by virtue of the recording, we'll have the compilation of links. I don't
And I
want,
want to shout out, Lori is on here.
Yes.
Lori has been, I think, is starting year 2 as one of our board of directors, and is also on our executive committee as our secretary. Lori's first board meeting was the start of our strategic plan. So I just want to give Lori some love and maybe some space if you want to say anything. No pressure, but we're really excited to have someone from your diocese on our board and representing you all well.
and the Prairie Retreat, so it's an opportunity for
Yeah.
a commercial, Lori. And at the
Oh, you're
moment,
muted, Lori.
I am muted, sorry. Yeah, thank you for that shout out. I am thrilled to be on the board and have learned an incredible amount from you, Irene. It has just been eye-opening. And yeah, to come on during a strategic plan was a little bit daunting, but I learned a lot and I appreciate all that you do. And just, it is wonderful to know that our diocese is behind the efforts. And of course, Our Lady of the Prairie Retreats behind your efforts. And we have been approached to do some programming about solar and what's happening with the solar panels out at the prairie and what's happening with the conversations taking place in the state. So more to come with that. And I probably will be calling on you and Kent to help in that regard as well. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and since Sister Kathy is on, we also had Sister Ruthie Westmoreland did a term on the board, the Franciscan Sisters in Clinton. I said it before, but have also been very generous with their time and helping us out. So we really have had great representation from your diocese in leadership.
Well, I'm not seeing other questions at the moment. Irene, I want to thank you so much for your time, your willingness to come on. Know that this is recorded. We will share this with others. We look forward to hearing about the projects and the opportunities, the offerings of the network, Iowa Faith and Climate. Let us know when there's the next advocacy work, and we'll keep our eyes open for the eco projects to help put on the map.
Yeah, well, thank you all for showing up today, the work you do, the work you will do, and we're gonna do it together, and we're gonna make change happen in Iowa for our climate. I just know it.
All right. Thank you very much.